Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the Geterbrewed channel. My name is Dillon, and today we are going to brew this Heritage IPA. Today I'm going to be brewing on the Speidel Braumeister 20. It's going to be interesting because Johnny's given me a 25-litre ingredient kit, so we'll soon see what the Braumeister is capable of. I currently brew on a Beacon Brewster. I'd say my level is beginner to wannabe intermediate. This is quite a piece of kit. We unboxed it a few weeks ago, and there's a video on the channel if you want to take a look at that. Nice touch screen at the bottom. You can sync it up with My Speidel, which is like their online app where you can share and develop recipes, and you can install them on the machine. We've just set this one a pretty basic manual mode just to start off with this. So today we're going to be brewing a Heritage IPA. We are using Chevallier Heritage Malt from Crisp. It's also got some flake torrefied maize in it as well. 600 grams of dextrose, calcium chloride and some calcium sulfate. What's that for? What does that do? Water treatment, that'll make the water tip top. We're using noble hops. We've got Fuggle and we've got East Kent Golding. AEB's new juicy New England yeast. It's going to be an interesting brew. I'm looking forward to it. As I said, first time brewing on the Speidel Braumeister, so let's get cracking. Right, so looking at the menu setting here, it's a pretty cool, very, very responsive touchscreen. Some of the other machines do have some slower touchscreens, but this one is very responsive. So what we are just going to do is go into manual, and we're going to set our temperature. You can see how responsive that slider is. We get 20 litres of water in there, and we'll hit hot water on. Once that hits the mark, we'll mash in. Oh, we paddle, thanks very much. I'm a fan of these wooden paddles. If you like these, by the way, they are available on the site. Local guy here makes them. Makes hurling sticks, is that right? And then he shapes those as well. A couple of things to mention up front. The Speidel heats, what we've noticed, it's heating very, very slowly. So it does take its time. Give yourself some time when you are doing this to get this up to temperature. Well, that's not me joking, it's not that hot. I wouldn't have touched it if it was that hot. If you take a look inside the Braumeister, the interesting thing is mash basket is submerged in the bottom. It's got like a little rubber seal at the bottom of it, so it can move pretty easily. So there is a bar that goes on top to secure it. But the way the pump system works in this is it pumps in from the middle and over the sides of the basket. And there is like a two-stage mesh filter here. You're pouring this in, you're gonna have to pour very, very carefully so that we don't get it around the outside, because if we do, it's gonna jam the pump. Tell you what, it's going to be working here at 20 litres. You get the right measurement. Don't try to do 25 litres in a 20 thing. But you can't. Well, obviously, we can't go over the side when we're stirring the stuff in. So we're just going to have to take our time. There's 4 of these filters effectively the whole way through it. One of these at the bottom. One of these at the bottom. This one goes on top of the mash. This one goes on top there again. So that should stop, unless you keep the grain basically in there, because it will come out the middle of this. Then we put in the mash bar arm thing, put the wing nut on. This wing nut will hold this entire mash system down inside the vessel. It does come with a whole bunch of different lids. You can use different variations of it. Flat lids, there's a funnel, chimney lid. We've got it set here, so we've got to make sure we're on to set the temperature to 67. So you can see here, those mesh baskets are holding that grain in the middle of it, kind of like a sandwich. The wort's spilling over the edges, back down into the vessel, and then it's been sucked in by a couple of holes around the side and pumped back in. Quite a clever system, very cool. All right, we'll leave that on, and it's gonna mash at 67 degrees for an hour. What we're gonna have to do is take off the mash arm thing from the top, and then lift the grain basket out. So wing nut up the top, stuff is going to be very warm, so do be careful. A couple of things you are going to need here. One is this little crow hook do thingy-mahooget for lifting it out, and then you're going to need this arm. It sits on top and allows you to rest the mash basket on top. For the record, didn't explain this earlier, but I shoot the videos normally for this. So it's very nerve-wracking Trust in queuing with the camera. Oh, the pump, okay, so the pump automatically turns off. So the pump switched off when it met its elapsed timer, which is kind of cool. Some of the other kits you have to manually turn the pump off, but the Braumeister seems to just switch it off itself. So this is the bit that I'm interested at, right? So you lift. Which is heavy, right? So this here goes like that, all right? On the side. Then you lift. And then you put these little hooks like that. Let that drain out. So we mashed in with around 20 liters. We're gonna sparge about 14 liters. Mike did the math on that, not me. Sparge water is sitting at 75 degrees.
It says Rick on it.
Rick. Shit the bed. Now you can see my pajama pants that I'm wearing to work today. Oh. Never skip arm day, folks. Never skip arm day. That's draining nicely. You know, I'm just leaving the mash filter at the top because that should dissipate the sparge nicely, shouldn't it? Jan's got 23 minutes left on his. He's doing a 90-minute mash, so a little bit longer. Now, if I learn anything from this, trying to heat it up, it does take its time. It is very slow. These machines seem to go a lot quicker. So I am going to push the heat up now to 100, to boiling. I'm going to stick the heat on, just so that while we're sparging, it'll start to heat up the wort that's already in the vessel. Otherwise you finish that bit and you go on, and then it's like 20 minutes. You gotta wait for that. So that does that with my home all-in-one system at home as well. Right, I'm gonna wait for that to reach temperature. We're at 76.7 degrees Celsius right now, and that's probably gonna take an hour. Knowing this, yeah. Going up quicker, is it?
Yeah.
Right, it's heating up quicker. So what I'm gonna do, we're just debating lids here at the minute. I'm going to go for the flat lid on this one just to keep the heat in so that I can get that temperature up quicker. If I put the funnel lid on, the heat will disperse out the top. So we'll wait there. Be careful because you could get boil over. So you do have to man this a little bit, but that should speed this process up. We're at 78.7. We need to get it to boiling. We'll do that and then we'll next stage. One thing on the Speidel machine that is quite interesting is you've got your pump system and all your controls here, but you've also got your timing switch here. So you set your time manually for how long you want to go for. You hit inset, choose your time. Shit, well, we're at 37 minutes left there. 37 minutes, hit go, and then it'll time that down. 97.7. That brew monk was about 14-15 minutes when I turned the Braumeister on to boil, and it's still sitting there waiting on a hot break. What's happening here? Why is mine dropping?
Scared of my brew monk.
I feel like you've done something to that. What have you done?
Nothing yet.
Everyone's watching their brews very carefully. I feel like one of you guys have done something to this because that's dropping in temperature, and that's not going to be user error. If there's one thing I've learned brewing, a lot of user error actually. You keep opening it. I think you're just trying to cool it down.
I was somewhere behind Dillon.
Right, we're at the 100-degree mark. So I'm going to get down here on the timer like we did with the mash, and I'm going to set that for an hour. I'm going to drop in my hops. We'll take that lid off. Hot break. I am going to go 60 minute here. We're going in with 100 grams of fuggle. You know? Oh, fuck. If you don't sniff your bag before you dip it in, what do you do with your life? I like to teabag it a wee bit, just to get her going. And then we need this. This is just oxy rinse. You don't really need to do it at this point of the boil. I just find it keeps you in. Just keeps you going properly the whole time. So this is the chimney attachment at the top, and it'll just funnel it out. Now imagine if you had this system at home, you could build a funnel attachment in, go out your wall, you could pump that straight out the back. That'd be pretty cool. So I'm gonna leave that an hour, and then we'll drop in 10 minutes before the end, we'll do protofloc and sugar, and then our final hops. Hops are pretty simple on this. Both noble hops, Fuggles and East Kent Golding. So I have this. Why am I the only one brewing an IPA as well? Everyone's brewing a lager today, except me. Could be because I didn't pick my own recipe. Be very careful lifting that off. That thing is roasting. 10 minutes out or 11 minutes out. We're going to add 600 grams of dextrose, which should lift the ABV without affecting the flavor too much. Is that correct? Jan told me, don't worry. I pretended like it was my own info. Did I? Yeah. Johnny's looked at me going, why are you putting dextrose into that heritage? I was like, you wrote this recipe. Now he's claiming he's trying to lift the fermentables of the Chevallier, is that right? Without affecting the flavor? Haze sugar. Maize sugar. Right. So, okay, so the reason we're adding in dextrose is Johnny's just shouted across at me. He wrote this recipe himself, and he was wondering why I was putting it in. And then he remembered he's trying to mimic like a real old traditional heritage recipe, and those recipes back in the day required a sugar addition. So that's why we've added in 600 grams of dextrose. Let that hit the end, and then we'll add in our last hop addition. So let's lift that thing off. This is East Kent Golding, and this is our last hop addition at 0 minutes. Just drop that, bag that a bit, and then give that a stir. So what we've got here is cold water coming in, hot water going out into the drains, and then we have got set this at 18 degrees, and we're basically just going to wait until it hits that temperature. It's at 86, and it's dropping quite rapidly. Maybe this is where the Braumeister wins. So you'll find, especially in summer, when it's much harder to cool these things, this cooling jacket is very cold, but it's slowed right down when it hit like 35 degrees. So we reckon if we get it in and we use the Linder chiller, we should be able to crash cool it right down to 18 really fast. Fingers crossed. So it's sitting at 30 degrees. I've dropped and broken the thermometer for the Speidel unit, so that's on me. So just be careful, it falls out of the little hole very easily. Johnny's looking at me like this, idiot. And he's correct, I am. What we're gonna do, we've transferred it from the kettle to the fermenter. It's sitting at 30 degrees because when this hit 35 degrees, it slowed right down and it wasn't cooling much quicker. You could have left it there and it would have done it, but I could be bothered, so we've moved it into this. We're gonna use the Linder chiller to crash cool it effectively. So, I'll tell you what, I'd like to see everybody that makes kettles and brewing, just give us a longer lead. That's not long enough. 5 meters you need. 5 meters. But all these things, they all come with these like 1.5 meter leads. And you're like, anyone making brewing equipment, 5 meter leads, because these are not long enough. The bit we're trying to work out with the Linder chiller is, how does it know what temperature the wort is? Because surely any thermostat it has is just telling you what temperature the water is. So there's a bit of guessing going on here. Maybe we need to go colder. Maybe it's only talking about the temperature of the Linder machine and not the wort. So we're putting in the temperature of the wort, but what we should be doing is we should be putting that down really low. And then monitoring the temperature gauge. Now, so the bit that makes this slightly confusing is this Linder chiller thing it's just a chiller, it's refrigeration, it's not a heating element at all. And the thermostat that it has built into it seems to just register the temperature of the system inside, so the water flowing through the system. It's not registering the temperature of the wort. So we're having to cross-reference it with the thermostat that's inside this one. So 21 degrees, but the temperature of the Linder chiller, is 10.7, temperature of the wort is 21. So we have an idea. What we're going to do is switch off the chiller, break another thermometer, pitch the yeast at 21 degrees, get a bit of hot water, like warmer water, and add it to the chiller. New England Ale Yeast Juicy Any IPA from AEB. Right, whole thing in. So I think we've worked out this way to cheat the system. Maybe we're missing something fundamental here. As I said, we literally just unboxed it and kind of made our own way up. This is the first time we've been using this system, and we're trying to work out how this is going to work for us. So Linder glycol chiller, basically the water in there will be maintained at 20 degrees, and it should run around the chiller sleeves and hopefully keep the wort at some sort of reasonable temperature. We're hoping if it sits at 20, it'll keep it around the 20 degree mark for fermentation. There you go, it seems like it's working, doesn't it? So you can see there, basically by pouring in hotter water, what Jan has managed to do. So he's slightly overheated it, and you can see the temperature is going up there, 21.2, 21.3, but we've got it set at 21.20. We have it set at 20, so it'll cool it down and then maintain that water temperature at 20. Man with a plan over there. There's no pressure here because Johnny's watching me do the video now. So, brew day complete. I had a lot of help there. I was messing quite a few things up, as I generally tend to do. But we've got it canned, and we're going to give it a quick taste. Let's crack it open, see what we think. Oh, all over my hand. Right color, you know. I can't take credit for the packaging. I kind of left after I brewed it and left it with the guys to do the rest. Now, we did package maybe a little bit prematurely, just so we could do the video to tell you guys what it tastes like. But it looks great. It smells good. So this is a heritage malt. It was made with heritage malt. It's basically designed around an old heritage IPA style. We use noble hops in it, Fuggles and East Kent Golding. It was my first time doing it. I brewed it on the Speidel Braumeister machine, which was really quite an interesting experience. Cool machine, well built, very, very fun to brew with. The beer has come out really good. It does need a little bit more carbonation. These are our test cans, don't judge us. It's quite sweet and caramelly smelling, if that makes any sense. Lovely. Very, very smooth, very, very mild. It's, you know, that's not an insulting beer at all. That would be really, really good on cask. It's kind of, imagine an old style English IPA, that sort of stuff. It's very, very mild flavors, very, very drinkable. You could smash quite a few of those on a hot summer's day out in the back garden. So I'm really happy with that. That's the sort of thing. Normally when I'm brewing stuff at home, I'm trying to emulate those big hoppy IPAs, which I probably should just be trying to get the basics right. And that is a very simple but elegant beer. Friends and family would love that beer. That is really, really happy with how it turned out. The brew day was really, really good. It was a very simple recipe to brew. So if you want to brew this Heritage IPA at home, we're going to have the recipe available on the Geterbrewed website. Let us know how you get on if you enjoyed it, and let us know what you think of the finished beer. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy brewing.